Welcome, everyone. It's right at 12:30, so we will start. And I think by the time a few others join, we'll be into things. I am Melissa Hanson with the Washington State Wine Commission. I'm the Research Program Director, and it's my pleasure today to welcome Dr. Clark Sievert from Oregon State University. He's an ag economist there. And a couple of years ago, he conducted on behalf of Washington and Oregon an economic mechanization study to look at existing technology and put some dollars and metrics to it to figure out if it pencils out for growers. So I want to, I'm going to control the slides. And first off, I just want to remind everybody, put your questions in the Q&A. Do not use the chat box. That's really only to private message the panelists or other people, and none of the audience can see it. So that is my first little message. And if you have not downloaded and read the original study, you can find it at the Wine Commission's website. If you just type in research/reports, and it's about the 5th or 6th research report. You can scroll down and you'll find it there, and you can download it or just read it online. Just we've come a long way since the old world and the new world of wine growing. And these are the machines that were part of the study. Dr. Clark looked at grape harvesters, pre-pruners, leaf pullers, or removers, and mechanical shoot thinners. And he used production numbers from Washington and Oregon. We had an advisory team that he'll identify. They provided some real world numbers to him. So from there, I will turn it over to Dr. Clark.
All right, thanks, Melissa, and welcome everyone. Hope you're having a great afternoon. I want to talk to you today about the mechanization of vineyards and some of the issues that the industry had, and when they contacted me, what they would like me to do. And so I'm just going to go over some of the basis for the study quickly, and then give you the outcomes. And then we're going to go into the AgBizLogic program, to where I've uploaded the budgets that I used to come up with these analyses. And then I'll show you how you can modify those into your own account and do your own analysis, because that's the primary basis for AgBizLogic. Is me doing the research is one thing, having you being able to do it yourself is where the power comes into capital investment analysis. So as you know, not necessarily Washington, there's Oregon, there's California, and many states, labor rates are really going extremely high at a rate of about 3% a year. It was even more than that previous to 2020. So it's the cost of labor, it's the availability of labor, diminishing workforce was really the primary force behind looking at this particular study. Next, Melissa. So the goals we had was to assess the profitability and the feasibility of current labor-saving machines. And at the same time, we wanted to preserve and enhance the fruit and wine quality while using automation. So the objectives is to identify the vineyard tasks that we could generate the highest rate of return on investment with mechanization, and then determine the financial requirements. It's one thing to say that profitability, you can afford or have profitable, generate profits by mechanizing. It's another thing to say, do you have the financial resources to make it happen? Do you have the ability to borrow, or do you have cash reserves or cash flow to make it happen? And so that's what we looked at, was profitability and then the financial feasibility. So when we took a look at the vineyard tasks, we decided on the pruning, the desuckering, the pulling, as well as harvest, as Melissa showed you the slides. This gives you an idea of how many hours of vineyard tasks for pruning of 35. we reduced it to 5 hours with mechanization. We felt that you had to go back through afterwards to kind of clean up. On shoot thinning and desuckering, it was 8 hours per acre, and basically it was reduced all labor. And leaf pulling, it was 15 hours per hour, 8 per acre, and we could reduce all the labor in the pulling part of it. So when you looked at reduction of labor when using the machines, there was some significant reductions in labor, but it just depended on how many hours of labor that you could reduce, etc. So there was some savings there. It's now, what are the economics behind that? Next. So when we looked at a vineyard operation in Washington State, we looked at 100-acre and a 500-acre operation. In Oregon, we looked at 20-acre and 40-acre operations. And if you want to look at those results, please go to the report and you can look at them there. I'm going to focus in today on Washington, and I'm going to focus in on, the 100-acre vineyard. So in pruning, excuse me, it's the blue bar. In my study, I showed that you could save about $436 per acre per year by mechanizing pruning. And the 500-acre was a little less. Now, when I talk about custom hire, one of the questions that the advisory group had was, so it's one thing to be able to buy the machine to do it, but can you hire someone else to come in and do it all? Like, so all pruning. And so we did that, asked around the industry about what people were charging. So if you could have someone come in and do this operation, I forget exactly how much the charge per acre on custom pruning, but it was $455 an acre savings. So it was about equal to, or a little better than, having your own machine. However, we all know about custom hiring, timeliness, etc. So we won't get into that much more than that. In shoot thinning and desuckering, $52 per acre per year savings over and above labor. And so these numbers, or these values, show it's the dollar return per acre per year above manual labor. So the 436 is over and above the manual labor for per spur pruning. Shoot thinning was $52. Leaf pulling was $194 per acre per year. And harvesting was significant at $1,120 per acre per year than the custom rate of $945 an acre, I believe it was, to custom harvest. So those are the results of the study. And so next one, Melissa, and basically I just want to acknowledge there was a lot of help here. And I tell you the truth, this is the most fun project I have done in my 32 years at Oregon State University. Mainly because the funding was there from the Wine Commission and the ERAF Family Foundation, but also the industry cooperators, Richard and Russ and Grant from Washington, and Daniel and Joel from Oregon. Whenever I needed anything, just a phone call or an email, and I had responses quickly. And they knew the numbers, they knew the speed of a machine, they knew how many hours they could save, etc. And so it was really, really a great project to work on. I also want to thank Chin and Patty Skinkus from OSU for their help, and also then to Melissa and Mark Chen. Without them kind of pulling and pushing the project, probably wouldn't have got done. So I just wanted to acknowledge and say that I want to thank them for all this. Okay, is that it, Melissa, for the slides? Could you give me the
yes.
access, could you give me the access to share?
Okay, go ahead.
Yesterday, when I looked at the database in AgBiz Logic, there was about half of the participants who created an account in our on the website, and the other half have not. So what I thought I'd do is just, first of all, show you our resources page where you can get some of the industry information and some of the PowerPoints that I've had put together for this project. But if you go to agbizlogic.com, this is where you'll be taken to. This is the link to that. And so this is our homepage. And if you go to the resources page, the first link or the first tab is publications and white papers. First one is the Grape Alliance, the true cost of mechanization. And the next tab would be presentations. This is the PowerPoints that you can go and access from various presentations I've made on various topics. So the first two are on mechanization. So it gives you an idea of if you want to take a look at those results from Oregon and different orchard sizes or vineyard sizes. And so that's another thing too, is that every vineyard size is different. Every operation is different. So this is where you can customize my research data for your operation and do your own analyses. So I'm going to quickly just sign up a fake account, just show you how to access the program itself. When you click on the sign up page, you'll have a user name. I like Mayberry Farms. Everybody at my age understands and remembers Andy and Helen from Andy and Mayberry. This is great. I love doing this show and doing examples using Andy and Barney and the rest of them. Okay, so you're going to be asked to set up a user, who you are, a username and a password. Guess I've already got. So set up your password. All right, and then it's going to ask you for a business name, address, and so forth, state, where you're from, what's your main industry, what's your main business, if you're a producer, processor, etc. And once you select that, it gives you kind of a terms of use page. This is Oregon State University saying that we're going to be able to use your information only when we aggregate it for research and extension purposes. It's going to be protected behind the OSU firewall, etc. And so please read that. And once you agree, you can go on and you've made your account. I only want to show you here. The first step is once you created an account, it shows your green check over here. It's data collection is the next step. This is where I'm going to stop at this point. But I only want to make you aware there's two basic ways of creating information within AgBiz Logic. The first is entering in your information from a Schedule F or Form 1040 that you do every year with your income taxes. You can enter that into the program line for line. And at the end of the process, through data collection and allocation, you'll end up with enterprise budgets that are yours from information from previous years. So you can pick out what is a representative Schedule F, enter that information, go through the process, doesn't take you that long, and you end up with your own enterprise budgets. The other option, and the one I would suggest for today, is that you can do a pre-made budgets from the AgBiz Logic library. And when I do that, I'm actually in my account. And I have various states, enterprise budgets from universities from various states around the country, California, Idaho, North Dakota, Oregon, and Washington. These are places that I've done talks about AgBiz Logic. And when I do the presentations, I spend a lot of time in getting the crop budgets, livestock budgets into the program so that if you don't have that information, you have it available to you. So if I go to Washington State, for example, you see I have apples. I have a lot of apple budgets, blueberries, asparagus, every budget that Washington State has current up to this time is in here. But for our purposes today, if you would go by title, you can search by title and you would type in research. What you'll end up with the budgets that have research in the title for Oregon and Washington. These are the budgets that I use to develop the output that you saw in the PowerPoint. And if you scroll down to Washington, you have research Washington grapes, wine, hand labor for 100-acre vineyard and 500-acre vineyard. Here's the leaf pulling for 100 and a 500, and then the mechanical harvest, and then the precision pruning and shoot thinning for each one of those operations. What I would suggest is that you would, for hand labor, for example, click on that for Washington at 100-acre. I would, first of all, so the budget comes in. This is the actual enterprise budget. I would rename your budgets to your that are well, let's call it vineyards. That's yours. Select a county, because you already told me you're in Washington State. Give me your county. That's Benton County. Now this is important. We've created drop-down menus because we've been told many times not to allow the user to type in entries because of a lot of misspellings. And so a lot of this is pull-down menus. And then here is the budget. It's mistakenly I put in Pinot Noir grapes. Go in here and just change that to just Cabernet if you'd like. And it's 5.5 ton per acre. Maybe change it to 4 ton, and instead of $1,300 an acre, $1,700 an acre. There's your revenue stream for cab on your vineyard. Based on these costs on 4 ton per acre. And so these are the costs that the industry, my advisory group said would be very close to what is probably happening in the industry. This is what we call an input budget, where we consolidate chemicals in one line, fertilizers in another, freight and trucking in another, etc. And here's your big one. There's your labor, $4,125 per acre. It's lumped together. And then again, it shows your gross receipts, your costs, and $654 per acre net returns after cost. Just go ahead and save it. And now it's in your account. I would go back into the ABL library budget. I would type in research again. I'm going to copy and save that. And then I'm going to go down to the 100-acre precision pruning. Again, I'm just going to make this a little more customized for me. I'm going to edit the budget just like I did the first one, 1,700. It just takes a little time, but really not that much. And now this is, and what's important here is the assumptions or the notes in the budget itself. This is where I tell you exactly what I did from the hand labor budget. I decreased costs by $592.50 by removing 30 hours of hand labor at $19.75 per hour. I tell you exactly what I did and how I come up with these different costs from what you had before. So now I have $1,183 in net returns without the cost of the machine. So I'm going to save that one. Again, I'm going to do research. I'm glad we're recording this. Let's do leaf pulling. And you can go back to the video and just kind of as a refresher, do this. This is only five budgets, so this won't take too long. And the whole idea is that this is for you. I mean, this is, you can customize these budgets now. Let's do the harvest. So it goes fairly quick. So I've made these adjustments for you already. So I have the harvest, leaf pulling, precision pruning, then hand labor. And what I'm missing now is the sheet thinning. I forgot to rename that budget a little bit, but you get the idea that you can really customize this and you can change these different costs and add categories if you'd like. There. So I have the research budgets that I provided online. Now they're in your account. You've changed yield and you've changed price, and you have the exact dollar reductions that I've provided in the notes. So for example, if you wanted to go to leaf pulling, I'm going to create a PDF. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the PDF when I share the screen or not. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go to the PDF. Okay, so when you print the PDF for leaf pulling, it gives you a very detailed how I modified costs. And so if you don't agree with these, you would take this and what you would modify and go back into the budget and change it. And so really spend the time here. This is where it all happens. Is if you don't have the good budgets, the rest of it is just kind of really is probably may not mean a whole lot, but might get you in the ballpark. But if you really want to get into the infield, excuse my baseball analogy, you really got to spend the time here and adjust these budgets. And then it shows you the different costs, and just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back into my account. Okay. So what I have here now is 5 enterprise budgets for my farm. If you want to do it for cab, you want to do it for Chardonnays, you want to do the Merlots, all you have to do is say copy a budget, and it'll list your budgets that you have in your account. Say pruning, and you'll be asked to change it and go, here's for Merlot vineyards. And you'll be able to go in, let me make sure I put in pruning. And you'll be able to, whoop. And so you should end up with right here. You can go in and modify it now, and different yields, different prices, but it is your budget. And so you can really get detailed right down to the vineyard if you'd like. And you could have as many budgets as you'd like. And you could look at, does it pay to have mechanization in one vineyard versus another, or the whole farm? I don't know what you want to do here now. If there's questions we could answer before I go on to the next steps.
Well, we do have a request to go back and show the slide at the beginning that had, your breakouts. But there's another question about multiple varieties. Would you develop a different budget for each varietal?
Yep, I think I just said that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
So I would go through and I'd get as detailed as you want, but it just depends on what, if you're going to look at harvesting or a machine that's going to go across multiple varieties, maybe just one budget or 2 budgets are enough to capture enough of the yield variations or the changes in your different budgets. So you don't have to get down to the brass tacks, but it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're looking at irrigation systems and other kinds of technologies and things like that, then I would say yes, get down to the varietal. Maybe you can get down into the vineyard, but you can get down as deep as you want. my only caution is the title of your budget is paramount to understanding what's in that budget. Because as you can see, you can end up with 100 budgets. And if you don't have a good title of describing what the varietal is, what the vineyard is, the exact, etc., you could be clicking on budgets all day long trying to figure out what budget you have for what purpose. And so I would say make your titles very descriptive. Okay, we'll go back to the slides probably when I'm done with this. Yeah. How's that, Melissa?
Good, good. So other questions from anybody? And one thing I just wanted to stress that this program does that's different than the cost of production calculator for the Northwest, it factors in that cost inflation. And so it can give you a look at where you're going to be in 4 or 5 years. Clark, can you maybe show how that works?
Well, that's the lead in for the next step.
Oh, okay.
That's great. It's timely.
Okay. Well, there's one more question here. Let me see. Why a different budget for each mechanical operation?
Because you're trying to measure the profitability of a separate individual machine. If you didn't care, if you wanted to do accumulated, I'm going to do harvesting, leaf pulling, suckering, etc., and no matter what, you could. But I would want to assess what machines are going to return me the highest rate of return on investment. Because if I only have limited dollars, if I had limited dollars to allocate to machines, I want to go where I'm going to get the biggest bang for my buck. And so that's what I would do. So I would keep it as a separate budget for each machine. Don't have to.
Okay.
That's a good question.
And then can you see the total budget of all the sub budgets? Does that make sense? You have a budget for the leaf pulling for mechanization. Is there a way to aggregate it all together?
There is, but it's not going to be part of today's program. It's going to be with the Ag Finance program, where we bring all of it together for a cash flow analysis to determine if we can afford to buy the machine. The reason we stay with enterprise budgets is because we want to look at individual investments, machines and varietals, etc. So we stay with budgets. We don't aggregate them yet, but we can later on, and I can show you how to do that.
Okay.
It won't be with today. Maybe we do another session in a month or two.
Yeah.
We can go through it.
Okay.
Okay. So any other questions?
One more. How many machines are required to complete these tasks?
That's another good question. In preparation, I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to show a PowerPoint that I gave at another session. These are the assumption I made, and that's a really good question, is that we had to come up with time during the season to complete each vineyard task. So for pruning, we assumed there was a 12-week period that we could take the machine and go over those acres. And if I had and I also then limited the tractor to, I believe it was 1,000 or 1,200 hours per year. And if you went over that, you had to buy another tractor, or you had to buy another machine. So like another pruner. So, but all of the machines so far in our study stayed within the time constraint. So in shoot thinning and desuckering, we allowed 4 weeks based on miles per hour, the spacing of the rows, and the efficiency that we used. And I think it was maybe 20-hour days or something like that. So we were able to stay within shoot thinning within 4 weeks for 100 acres. Leaf pulling, 5 weeks. And a footnote, it says if adjusting for crop load, then it becomes 2 to 3 weeks or less, depending on the grape variety. And then harvest was 1 acre per hour. And that was variety dependent, but a general rule, 1 acre per hour. So 100 acres, 100 hours. So 10 hours, 20-hour days. You can kind of do the math there. So good question. That was the constraints. Okay. All right, I'm going to go on to the next step. Creating the budgets, as I said, is very important to get the income and the expenses right. Once you feel comfortable with that, now we have to take a look at putting these budgets in sequence over time so that we can measure the net returns, which are the income minus expenses for each year of the life of that machine. So for example, when we take a look at pruning, the pruning operation, we're going to look out at 10 years because we all felt that the life expectancy of the machine was probably 10 years. So you want to capture that net returns each year and bring it back to net present value in today's dollars. Because you all heard where, you heard the adage where a dollar today is worth more than sometime in the future. And that's what we're trying to do, is take these stream of net returns and bring them back to today's dollars. And so we're trying to develop a sequence of budgets, and we do that by creating a plan. So after we've developed the budget, you click on the plan manager on the left-hand side, and you can copy a plan if you already have a current one. You can create a new one, or you can do a sensitivity analysis, which I'm not going to go into today. But if I want to create a plan, and I can say pruning mechanization. There we go. Little misspelling. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a plan, a sequence of budgets for pruning. And there's my Merlot pruning right there. And I'm going to, and this is the budget select. Now, you can do crop rotations, but in perennial crops like the business you're in, that doesn't make sense. So what I'm going to do is create 10 budgets in a series. So I'm going to load up 10 pruning budgets to look into the future of this mechanization. And I'm going to click continue. And what it does is it just shows me that I've laid out these pruning budgets for 10 years. I want to make sure I have 10 years. I can duplicate budgets, or I can delete budgets if I have made a mistake. Simply going to continue. The next question is a planned space allocation. You don't need to worry about this in the vineyard industry. This is very important for the nursery industry, where you're looking at a per pot or per tree basis, and you have greenhouses and greenhouse spaces. We're trying to spread costs over allocated space. You don't need to worry about this. Just hit continue. This is where, as Melissa was talking about, was inflation. I'm going to show you how inflation just eats and erodes profitability through time. There's a couple of different ways you can do inflation. One is you can apply the same rate of inflation to all budgets at the same rate. And that's what we have here, apply to all. And that's probably what I'll do to save time. But I just wanted to show you that there are, I did go through and I gave it my best effort, is for every cost component, whether it's car and truck expenses, chemicals, feed, freight, etc. These you can put in separate. And I do have default values. If you click on default, I try to do my best to kind of get anywhere from 0 to 2 to 3% inflation for each one of those items. But for the sake of saving time, I think what I'll do now is for revenues, I'll keep my returns back to the grower at 0, just to keep it simple. And what I'm going to do is inflate all costs in each budget by 3% each year. I'm going to apply it to all. And it's going to take a little time, and just understand that there's a lot of information that's being crunched right now. Each one of these budgets, each one of those costs in each budget for 10 years have now just been inflated by 3%. And it just kind of shows you here about each one of those. And so I'm done with the pruning plan. So I'm going to quickly just make the harvesting. And I'm not going to get too fancy with wording. I see I have a former student in the audience, and she probably would not like me saying this, but yeah, we're going to save time when I made them struggle through the whole class to go through each budget, every default. Right, Melissa?
Right.
Okay. So there's 10 budgets for harvesting. We're not going to worry about space allocation. I'm just going to make all costs 3% inflated. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so I have pruning. I have, let's go leaf pulling. Right here. And again, it's just critical that you get 10 budgets in for each year. They don't have to be the same for mechanization. One could be a 5-year piece of equipment, and another one could be 12. Just for simplicity and calculating the dollars, I'm going to keep it at 10. And as we, this program is still in development, and as we get into it, we'll have videos, online videos and so forth to help you along with these kind of decisions. But for now, we're just doing the best we can. And let's do one more. Shoot things. And then we're almost done with this, and we'll spend time on the output. Okay, 10 budgets. I'm going to pay 3% inflation. Okay, so now I have my 4 mechanized operations for 10 years each. Now I'm ready to evaluate the economics of these, the profitability of these different investments. So as you can see off the left-hand side, you can go to your inventory. We've been to budget manager. We've now just got done with plan manager. There's also a module called scenario manager if you want to create different scenarios. But since we're going into ag biz profit to measure profitability, we can do that within the program there. I do have a module called climate, which we won't have time to talk about today. And the one we're working on and almost finished with is ag biz finance. That could be another workshop on its own, and I'd be glad to do that for you folks once you get your get the profitability down. So I'm going to go to ag biz profit. I'm going to create a scenario, and I'm just going to call it mechanization. Mechanizing operations. And here's where I can bring up to 5 different plans at one time and compare them side by side. And so I'm going to look at, let's look at pruning. And then I'm going to load up my thinning. I'm going to load up my pulling. Then we'll bring up harvesting last. So now in this scenario that has plans in it, I have 4 plans at 10 budgets each. I have 40 budgets in each one of these scenarios right now. And when I go to next, it's going to ask me for 4 different questions that I think it's, we could spend a whole week talking about each one of these. But the first is a discount rate. How much are you going to discount future earnings to today's dollars so that you can compare apples to apples, or wine grapes to wine grapes, or bananas to bananas? I like to take 6% discount rate. It could be anywhere from 4 to 10, could be 12. But it's up to the individual, how much they value money. I can send you just a quick blurb on how to calculate that and why you would change these different discount rates. So pruning mechanization, the pruners cost $30,000. But remember, our budget's on a per acre basis. The budgets within the plan are on a per acre basis. We want to keep the cost of the machine on a per acre basis. So the cost of the machine is $300 per acre. And our best guess is that since we don't know a lot about these machines, the salvage value at the end of the 10 years would be 10% of the new cost of the machine. So it's $30 per acre. And there's a box here that you click that basically says, don't include these values in my cash flow analysis. And I'll get into that sometime, but not today. Harvesting is going to be $210,000 for a harvester. So that's $2,100 per acre and $210 salvage value. For leaf pulling, $30,000. That's $300 per acre and $30 salvage value. And the leaf thinning was $32,000. So it's $3,200 per acre, and it's $32 salvage value. And that's all I need. And now what I've done there in the beginning and ending investment value is I've purchased the machine out with cash. I don't care how I'm going to finance it yet. I just want to know a cost of the machine and the salvage value. There's a stream of cash flows brought back to present value, and I want to see if it makes sense to purchase that machine. So I have 4 different criteria to measure that by. The first one I look at is the net present value. The second will be net returns. The internal rate of return is another one, but through my exercise before going through this, before this workshop, is that their return on investment is so high or negative that they just didn't calculate. So they go to 50%. So we're going to ignore those. But the net present value. So on plan 1, which is pruning, it is positive. It's net returns over the course of the 10 years. So I purchased the pruners. I have a stream of cash flow through savings of labor, and then I have a salvage value in 10 years. When I add those together, it's $1,411 per acre for the 10 years. Based on its net present value at a 6% discount rate, the present value is $1,600.40. If you want to look at that on an annual basis, just divide by 10. So the pruners, after buying the equipment, salvage value and this is with inflation going on as well. It's about $164 per acre per year. Back to you. Now in the harvesting, quite a bit different. $20,000 per acre over 10 years, but the net present value is $15,000. So it's about $1,500 per acre per year, based on your price, your yield, your cost, inflation, the price of the machine, the salvage value of the machine brought back to net present value. So to me, those are thumbs up investments. As long as they're positive, boy, that's the first step to a go. The leaf pulling, on the other hand, is a negative. And then the net present value is a minus $731. So it's a $73 an acre per year loss in buying the leaf pulling machine. So maybe the next step would be to look at the custom hire. Could you get that done cheaper? And from our analysis, you could. Now, it's different from the output that I showed you earlier, only because we have different prices, different yields that I changed, and different inflation rates. Okay, so this is the beauty of the machine, of the AgBiz logic. You can go back and change those now and take a look at how they impact your analysis. And then the shoot thinning is a larger negative. You just don't reduce enough labor, 8 hours an acre, over the course of the period of time for that $32,000 investment on 10 acres to make it pay. So again, you take a look at custom hiring, etc. So you can go back in and change inflation rates. You can go back in and change your price of your product, yields, and see how that might impact your analysis. On the net returns, just take a look at, I guess let's take a look at the harvesting. You start out in year one with a positive $2,836. That's income minus expenses, with your cost increasing at 3%. And you just take a look at how much your net returns decrease over time. So you start out in year one with $2,836 per acre, and you end up with $1,628 per acre at the end of the 10 years. So that's how that inflation is starting to erode your profitability. And so you're always having to fine tune, look for technologies and look for efficiencies to stay profitable. And you've been doing it all your careers. So this is nothing new. It's just that I've been able to show it graphically and in tables, how it gets there, how it erodes your profitability. So on the pruning, you start with $1,014, and it's in year 7 you turn negative. So it's still profitable to have the pruners. It's just knowing that in 7 years, if these assumptions stay correct, unless your yields or your prices go up, then you could go back and edit your plans and say your commodity prices are going to go up 1% a year. You could do that and take a look at how that changes your net returns. To me, when it gets to all these different analyses, what I like to do with the plans is I like to look at the PDF files and just read those. They're much easier to read. And so here's your assumptions with discount rates, beginning and ending investment values in your mechanization. I think it's page 5 where I can really take a look at, here's your net present values. I won't get into annual equivalents right now, but showing that there's a couple of mechanized or machines that'll make you some money, another couple that don't. And maybe that's what good reason why you keep these separate in your budgets, so you can identify the winners and the losers, the ones that are good investments and ones that aren't. I think it's page 5. Yeah. Page 5 will show you then the net returns and showing, the negative values and how inflation erodes that profitability. So that's as far as what I wanted to take you right now in profit. It's, as I said, once you get into the budgets, once you get those down, you go to plans, go to AgBiz profit, and now you can go back and change your information to what's relevant to you and how you want to do certain things. And so that's what I would suggest. And I don't know, we have about 10, 11 minutes. I guess I could answer a couple questions, but we still need to go back to the PowerPoint slides.
Okay. Let's see.
Did you want me to stop that? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. and we'll go back to the beginning. Whoops. So when you get to negative net present value, should you be looking at improved mechanization options?
Certainly. That is, that could be one of it. Another one would be maybe our discount rate is too high. Maybe we have a cost item that's maybe out of whack. You know, if you feel comfortable with the cost, you feel comfortable with the discount rates, then I would say yes. There might be some other options, and maybe custom hiring would be the way to go. And maybe custom hiring 3 of the operations out of the 4, and maybe buying the fourth, the best of the 4 to allocate your money to the best investment. So there's different things to look at, but just because it's negative doesn't mean it's all bad. It's just look at your assumptions. Maybe it's the salvage value is, but if you're running a 150 or 200 acre vineyard, you know, those costs do change. And so maybe that negative becomes a positive. So again, you can't just take it on a 100 acre basis. You got to do it on your acreage.
And then there is a question about details of the different machines that were used. And thank you, Grant, for putting in your email and the website there. As Clark mentioned, we worked closely with VineTech out of Washington. They're, you know, a very primary vineyard machine supplier to the industry. And Grant had a lot of numbers he could share. I might make one comment on the mechanical chute thinner. As probably most of you are aware of, you know, we don't quite have the machine that works ideal yet. And so I think that was reflected in that there was a lot of thought there would be some follow-up work. And there is a research project that the Washington industry is supporting right now to try to improve the existing mechanical chute thinner so that it's more precision driven. But I think that's one reason why the mechanical chute thinner kind of fell out where it did. And I want to refer you back to the research report because there's a lot of detail in that research report. So now, Clark, if you want to,
I did.
Let me go back to the one sheet. I think it must be this one, the vineyard task. Somebody wanted us to kind of flip back to one of the beginning slides.
I don't see it.
So there's, oh, it was one of the very first ones. Let's see.
You'll have to share your screen.
Just there. The first slide with the graph that saves per acre per year. Yeah, I think this is it, per acre hours. And obviously when Grant or Clark talked about leaf pulling versus custom, you know, we did not make the assumptions how easily it would be to find either one, custom work, or comparing having machine versus trying to find labor at that same time period. So there's, you can't put a number to everything, we found out. So there's that one again. Whoops, okay, let's see here. I cannot find my end of the slideshow. There we go. Let's see, we have a few more questions, I think. Okay, I don't think that was being shared, so let's go back here. Okay, so there's that. Whoops. Hit too quick on the. So there's the hours per acre. And then that was the other slide. Whoops, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to pull up the website for the report again. And there's one more question here. Are we aware of any research on the cost of trellis repair with more mechanical operations being performed in vineyards? Those kind of things were factored in by the advisory committee when we looked at the different pieces of equipment. They considered repair maintenance for this equipment. And so the report addresses that. And I'm pretty sure we also addressed, you know, if you had to go back in, that would be counted as labor. If you had to go back in and put in some new trellis posts or something.
And also, speaking, that's a good question, because it reminded me that we also then inserted cost for something I never thought about, and that was mechanics. That when you go to mechanization, you're going to swap certain labor. And we accounted for, I believe, I can't remember how much it is per acre, but we did put a cost in for either mechanical, the repairs, or hiring your own mechanic to keep the machines going. And those are included in those costs.
Right. Because obviously the more high tech you get, the more difficult it is to repair by yourself.
That's right. So it depends on your vineyard size. If you spend a lot on repairs somewhere, or do you have your own person?
Okay, any other questions? Like I mentioned earlier, we are recording this, and you will get a link to the recording. Everybody who registered will get a link, and we'll also have it posted on our website if you missed the email.
Melissa, someone wanted to know where they can find the report.
Yes, can you see that now? That slide is right there.
No.
Oh, you can't? Okay, why is that not sharing? Now, can you see it?
No, and we're still on the mechanism. Oh, the study itself.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the study.
Yeah. Okay. WashingtonWine.org research.
Yes, WashingtonWine.org/research/reports. And there is a filter. You can just type in mechanization and it should pop up, or you can scroll down and look for, it's the only mechanization report. So look for developing economic and financial benchmarks.
And I guess what I would like to know is if anybody is interested in going into the next step with finance, because it's one thing to say that harvesting is the most profitable and as well as pruning, but do you have the financial resources to be able to buy the machine based on your ability to borrow or cash flow or reserves? And that's where finance would come in. And if you're interested, let Melissa know, and I'd be glad to do that one as well.
In fact, maybe if everybody would just raise their hand, I could count up if there is enough interest. We could set something up in the future. And Grant, somebody asked if you're available night and day for repairs. So, I think we had about 5 or 6 hands that came up. So in a month or so, maybe before things get too busy, we can see about putting one more together. And everybody who registered for this website or this webinar, we can send an invite to again. If not, if there's no other questions, I guess, thank you very much. Thank you, Clark.
Welcome.
And we'll let everybody get back outside after a long lunch. Clark, do you want to say anything else? You done?
No, I'm done. It's just great to do this and look forward to it.
Okay, great. We will end